Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, it's Rob Kendall. Thanks so much for checking out the Rob Kendall Show. And remember, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you own a business or you're in charge of making decisions for your business, we'd love to get to know you. We'd love to learn more about what you do and how here at the Rob Kendall Show, we can help you get your word out to a very loyal group of people. Because, you know, that's what we have with viewers on the Rob Kendall Show, a really loyal group of people. Send us an email, sales@robkendallshow.com, sales@robkendallshow.com. And I look forward to getting back in touch with you to learn more about your business and how the Rob Kendall Show can help you grow.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Welcome back, Rob Kendall Show. Find us at robkendallshow.com. Joined by one of the best in the business from the Indiana Capital Chronicle, the great Niki Kelly. Hello.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like it's been so long since
we've
been together. And now we can go for more than 7 or 8 minutes.
That's true.
Okay, so Indiana Capital Chronicle, obviously, I've said this for a while. You guys cover the State House, I think, better than anybody else.
We hope so. I mean, there was a period where, we lost a lot of reporters covering the State House and what's going on there. And so a lot of stuff was getting missed. And I think we're seeing it turn around, not only with just us, but other people have gotten in the market. And so now it's breeding competition, which is great for, all Hoosiers to bring accountability to their leaders.
So each week, Niki's going to join us. I'm signing you up for that again.
Oh, okay.
Hope that's okay.
Great.
And for those of you who don't know, like we did on the old show, we're going to talk about some of the biggest stories of the week covered in the Capital Chronicle. You guys were at the forefront yesterday talking about the tolling on I-70. They moved very fast on that, didn't they?
They moved fast to file the waiver. We don't know how long it might take for the federal government to give a decision on that. And I think the way the application was written is they wouldn't go into effect till like 2029. But the idea is to toll the whole length of I-70. The initial rates they've got in there for passenger cars versus heavy trucks. And then they want to finance off that revenue stream to basically rebuild and add lanes to the entire I-70. So it becomes six lanes from Ohio to Illinois.
Now, when they use 65 as the example, when they were kind of selling this, right? Well, that's Chicago, right? Chicagoland area. They didn't talk about, we're not going to toll all of 65, like when Daniels did major moves and sold the toll road. They kind of presented this like, we're going to get the people coming into Indiana or going out of Indiana. This seems like it's going to be the whole state of Indiana, no matter where you're driving on 70.
Well, it would hit anyone who drives on 70. I think what they would argue is there are a lot of people, especially truck traffic, that just drives fully through Indiana. And because of the length, that's 156 miles, they don't have to stop for gas. They're not paying our gas taxes. And so we're trying to get the people who are just kind of going through and, so they can contribute to updating the road.
Has there been any talk of like exemptions for like, hey, I live in Brownsburg, I'm going to Indianapolis, I'm going to work, I'm going to pay taxes. Like, hey, we're going to give you a freebie?
Yeah, there was nothing like that in the waiver. I think that actually gets a little problematic because you can't, because of interstate commerce, right? You really can't treat drivers differently, is my understanding. I remember that discussion coming up when we did lease the toll road originally. And so I think you have to kind of keep it even keel to make sure that you're treating everyone under federal law the same.
Niki Kelly from the Indiana Capital Chronicle is our guest. Let's talk about this abortion ban ruling. This is fascinating because it seems like this thing has been in court since 2022.
Absolutely, yeah.
It has survived numerous legal challenges. And now this judge comes out and essentially says that it's violating people's religious freedom. And there was some bizarre thing about because some abortions are allowed and others are not. What is going on with this? And do you think it'll hold, the judge ruling will hold on appeal?
Yeah, I don't know about that. This was a trial court ruling. The argument is, and some of the women who were involved or the groups are involved, especially mentioned people of the Jewish faith, and they believe that life begins with the first breath. So under this argument for them is, if I needed an abortion, I wouldn't be able to get it, even though it's against my religious beliefs. Like, I don't believe that life begins at conception. And so that's the basis of that. I do think, obviously when this injunction was granted, there was a lot of hubbub on Twitter and in various stories. I do think people need to understand that this is probably a very small segment of people who could argue that their religious beliefs truly mean they require an abortion, right? So, I think it's a small segment of people, but is significant. The Attorney General has decided to appeal, which we obviously knew would come, and that'll go up to the Court of Appeals, and then I assume both sides, it'll end up at the Supreme Court no matter what.
The Indiana State Supreme Court.
Correct.
Yeah. RFRA is like the gift that, depending on how you view it, either keeps on giving or...
Well, that's the irony, right? Is that RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, was pushed by conservatives years ago to protect religious beliefs. And back then it was businesses who didn't want to serve gay customers, whether it be the gay wedding cake, whatever. Right. And, now it's being used the opposite way, right? With abortion. And you mentioned that the judge said, I think her point was, well, since you're allowing some exceptions, right, with rape and incest and the life of the mother, then you have to, for religious freedom reasons, allow this exception too.
Niki Kelly from the Capital Chronicle is our guest. Okay, so and the thing I like about the Capital Chronicle, you guys have very clear delineation. This is opinion. These are our straight news stories. You had an opinion piece on casinos. We had more casino legislation again this year. Ultimately, it comes down to 3 counties in Northeast Indiana. Yeah. They're going to all have casino referendums. If any of them vote it down, they're out.
Correct.
If they vote it up, then it goes to the Gaming Commission to decide. But your column centers around how one casino is sort of being left for dead instead of perhaps letting that casino move. And ultimately, that probably comes down to money.
Yeah, I just found it interesting. This entire discussion started about 3 years ago because the Rising Star Casino in Rising Sun, Indiana, which is run by Full House Resorts, they came and said, look, originally when we opened, there were only 3 casinos down here. Cincinnati has added 4 or 5 in that general area. And their point is the market is just oversaturated. Like, everyone is losing revenue, not just them, though they do have the lowest revenue. They're still making money, but it's just going down every year. So their point was, can we figure out a way to let us move this license to Northeast Indiana, which everyone could see it was kind of the untapped market in the state, right? And it wouldn't really impact existing casinos, like if you placed it in Indy or, somewhere else. And so we had some bills last year, and now we had bills this year. And there were so many different versions of this bill, right? And
it's always changing.
Like whether it was a relocation or whatever. But in the end, what we ended up with was just creating a whole new casino license.
Right. Which takes a lot of money.
Yes, that gets $150 million license fee for the state. And then whoever wins the license has to invest $500 million in that property, at least. And so, but in the meantime, Full House got no help, right? Like they have owned that place since, I think, 2011.
Right.
They've sent more than $100 million in taxes to the state coffers. And they've, as far as I know, been a good steward, And, lawmakers were kind of really stuck on this free market. We want to put it up for bid. But, that basically means we haven't solved any problem down in Southeast Ohio, which is still an oversaturated market.
Niki Kelly from the Capital Chronicle is our guest. IndianaCapitalChronicle.com is the website. So you guys also run columns from other organizations that are affiliated with you guys. That's the nice thing about being a nonprofit. You sort of have this sort of block of people you can pull from. State Line, one of the groups that you run from. And you guys ran an interesting column the other day about how other states are moving forward, or at least potentially moving forward, with banning data centers. Now, Indiana has seemed to be on the other side of this. Is there going to be some middle ground we're going to be able to find on these data centers in Indiana? Or is this going to continue to be local communities fighting against incentives given out by the state?
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, State Line does like trend work. They look at like all the legislatures in the nation and they point to things that are moving one way or the other. And they're part of our parent company. So they do some great national looks at issues. And this was one of those stories.
Like Vermont is doing stuff, Michigan, Georgia, they all have, it doesn't mean they're going to pass, but they all have these bills that would essentially either indefinitely or for a period of time ban data centers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear anyone, at least on the Republican side, really talking about that. Governor Braun has been very strongly for data centers so long as they are, quote, paying their freight. He has come out and, pushing them, I think, from 2 years ago when data centers were settling in and there was no talk about how they would get their electricity. Now it's like they have to bring their own electricity to the grid, or they have to pay for the upgrades that for the utility costs they need. So they've added that. But most Republicans I talk to are very set that these data centers are a necessary thing for Indiana growth. They peg it to security issues, basically like if we don't have the data centers, they'll go somewhere else. They'll go to China, and they would hold all our records. And that's a security concern. And so, as far as I can see on the Republican side, there's not an appetite to ban them in any way. And they did at least put a little bit of a section in a bill this year to require some of the savings they reap from a tax credit to send that money to local units of government. So they're trying to at least make it more palatable for local communities.
They've got to do something, though, because the data, and I've said this, the data centers and the local governments and the state are not doing a horrible job of communicating with these residents in these communities. And it's like they've got to find a way to lay out what these benefits are, because most people just don't seem to see them.
Yeah, there are some benefits. I mean, obviously, if you have unused or farmland, sure, you're collecting some property taxes, but you're not going to, you're going to collect more with a big data center on that. Even with an abatement, they still have to pay, some property taxes. But also part of what works against them is they're not good for full-time employment. I mean, once you get past the construction phase, they don't really bring a lot of jobs. And so people just don't really get it.
Right.
And I also think part of what they need to explain when these come to the communities is, look, is this a data center that's like making me be able to do a caricature of myself in ChatGPT? Because I don't think people want that.
Right.
But, is it going to hold your medical records?
Right.
There are different uses of AI and data centers. And I think it would be better for them to explain more how they would help us as citizens in the overall scheme.
A couple of minutes left with Niki Kelly from the Indiana Capital Chronicle. Anything surprise you about the legislative session this year? Anything stand out to you where you go, man, I didn't see that coming. I didn't anticipate it going that way. I was shocked the township reform bill went through.
Yeah, I mean, we have had that every year for so many years, but they did really take a different data-based approach, which I think finally the townships themselves have realized, look, we're not going to be able to keep all these 1,008 townships. So at least they're going to look at, whether they're doing their jobs to see if they're possible for merger. I mean, obviously the big surprise was the whole Bears issue.
Right.
No one had that on the clock when we started in January. So that turned into quite a thing in February.
You obviously cover the State House unlike anybody else. Is there a belief that the Bears are actually going to come to Indiana? Because they kind of set down the deadline of this got to be done by the end of the session, and then now it's not done, and they still appear to be negotiating with it. Like, do the people in the State House believe the Bears are coming to Indiana?
Well, the deadline was just about lawmakers getting the package done because they didn't want to have to come in for a special session, right? Special sessions no one likes. And so they were like, look, we put the package out there. We put all our all the information forward, and now the Bears have to decide. I mean, I think at the end of February, the governor was saying, we'll probably know in the next month or two. What's happening now is they're looking for land. They're testing to make sure it's environmentally suitable. They're comparing, probably all their costs in Illinois versus all their costs in Indiana. I think the people who worked directly with the Bears think it's a possibility. I think everyone else kind of just assumes it was leverage.
And you guys you were one of the, and this is, you guys do this and the stuff that nobody else does. You guys had that very interesting article about how in the Bears bill, there was this amendment that would now put new restrictions on expensive road projects, which a lot of people think was brought because of the Mid-States Corridor. Now, some of the big wigs of the government try to say, no, it's not because of that. But the timing of that was very interesting.
It was very interesting. And also, nothing in that bill, it has nothing to do with that bill. So it was this random thing at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, when I first read it, I thought it was Mid-States Corridor. It does technically apply to other things, other large projects. But I think we had already heard some issues in January and February, people being very upset. Obviously, we're talking about tolls for I-70, but I think lawmakers are getting frustrated that local projects are being pulled because funding just isn't going far enough, with inflation. And so I think before we start, billions dollar, it depends. Some people say 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, the estimates for mid-states continue to go up, which is inflation. Sure. And so, but before we start putting new stuff on our plate, let's make sure we're taking care of what we have, and I think that was sort of the goal of that.
Find her, IndianaCapitalChronicle.com. You're half of our show every day.
Great. So
everybody should totally visit. I used to tell you that all the time, and you're like, "Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, that's wonderful."
No, I love it.
No, you guys do a phenomenal job, and we so appreciate what you do, and we're glad to have you back. The great Niki Kelly, thank you.
Great, thanks for having me, guys.
You're watching the Rob Kendall Show.
Your bathroom fan could be secretly costing you thousands of dollars in damages. Most people don't even know this until the damage is done. With over 18 years of bathroom remodeling experience, here are 3 signs your fan is failing you without spending a dime on inspections. Sign number 1 is if you have foggy mirrors after you shower. This shows that your fan isn't pulling out enough moisture, which creates the perfect environment for mold. If you have a properly functioning bathroom fan that is the right size for your space, you shouldn't see much fogginess on your bathroom mirror at all. Sign number 2 is if you have bubbling, cracking, or peeling paint in your bathroom. This means moisture is soaking into your walls, slowly breaking down drywall, and even causing the wood framing behind it to rot. Sign number 3 is if you have mold buildup on your fan, ceilings, or walls. This is terrible for your health, but also could wreck your bathroom, costing you a fortune. If you're noticing any of these signs, here's what you can do.
Call Vent Savvy today at 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434, and mention Rob for a free attic inspection.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.